solution for that. So my name is Ralph Paschen. Thanks for the introduction and for the polling questions, Alan. And I take it over as a moderator this presentation today. It's all about a masterclass series, Automate Your World, today with the self-service orchestration for the business. Last time we did it with a task, the continuous deployment. And today with me will be presented by Jesper Christensen, Chief IT Infrastructure Specialist from Nordea. So welcome, Jesper. I think there's a mute. It's okay. I will anyway hand over to him.
You?
Ah, you see, it works. So do me a favor and just click the next slide so we go through the slides for a moment, then I will hand over at my end of the slides to Nordea. So I want to introduce Jesper to you today. Jesper is really passionate about anything about IT process automation or orchestration. He's really working on getting rid of this boring, time-consuming scripting and integrations and handling of siloed automation tools. And one of the reasons why he started this, or why this company started the Chaos Project, is that he's looking into automation of things. Best describe him, and I just collected that from several sources, as a lot of people know him. It's all about he's entrepreneurs, innovative, it's out-of-the-box thinking, which is a big case in IT because typical IT is thinking in boxes, highly motivated and motivating professional, and talks both languages, business and IT. And that's the reason why he wants to be here, and I'll tell you about the story about this project in detail. Can I click next slide, Jesper, for me? Okay, my name, Ralph Paschen, currently running the Solutions Market Department at Atomic. Over the past years, various numbers of positions in the software industry, coming from a technical data center role, moved into pre-sale, sales, product management, product marketing. And this role, product marketing, I was responsible for the last 6 years for the whole SAP portfolio for Atomic, and now I'm building the Solutions Marketing Department to give you, partners, customers, a clear understanding what is the value of our platform. So I put also my Twitter and my LinkedIn account into it, so feel free to reach out to me. Next one, please. What does Atomic stands for? Atomic is all about automation. And in this case, not just automation of specific things in IT or release automation. Just it's all about what is business needs for to do their imperatives and all these initiatives. Help them to automate them and not adding more resources and more people to it and make it more agile. That's what we really living on, which are focused on, is all about business automation, which means infrastructure, application scenarios, and also business process scenarios. And it's exactly our goal and what we want to reach out in the market. Next one, please. Driving business outcomes. We were looking from a different perspective, not just the IT, where we also come from. When we're looking for the business outcomes, we have to look into the imperatives which are the business driving today. Can you click next one, please? Let's start with improved decision making. Big thing today is about predictive analytics, big data, real-time analysis in memory, to use that in this space, big data projects. It all starts from business imperatives to get faster decisions and improve decision making for the business to make the right things happen. Acquire and retain customers. Your competition in today starts every day with a startup. So you have to take care about how do you acquire new customers and retain the existing ones. Business agility. Big thing, and that's the reason why DevOps really exists, is getting more agility on the market. How is it done? With applications. Everything else has to follow the application. So the application is watched by the business more and more, not just by the IT only. Outsource non-core functions. One thing which is not relevant for the business, they outsource it. They have to take care about mergers, acquisitions, and also divestitures, and make that happen. How to get this done quick, fast, and implement it. Just an example, doing a financial close with a fresh acquisition is a kind of a lot of manual processes to make happen that this financial close for the next month after the acquisition is done well. You're not running in any poor audit statements. Improve efficiency and reduce costs. It's a big case for IT. Efficiency is all about process optimization. It's all about getting things done quicker but with less costs. IT is always under pressure with costs. Modernize business. Get rid of the legacy systems you have already in place since 20 years. Adding more cloud technologies to it, adding more cloud business applications to it. Modernize the business itself, not just to run on a specific ERP system, just move it out and get more on the self-development era and Java.NET to make things happen, to modernize it. At all, you have to take care about governance, risk, and compliance. Whatever you use, that's a particular business imperative, which business takes care of, not to get in trouble. Next one, please. All of that have one. All of them, each of them have one problem. Without any automation, business will not able to reach desired outcomes. The desired outcome is not just covered with adding more resources to it and more people to it to make it happen. Without automation, you will not be able to be more agile on that, for example, or you cannot get improved decision making. You take too long to get data out of the systems. You need to do something for your customers, not to take for 10 days a customer request and hopefully after 10 days it's done. It has to be done as quick as possible so the competition is not just jumping into that. Next one. So what is it all about? Let's talk about these business imperatives again. It's all about complexity. That's the business view, what we have on here. If you do next click, please, Jesper. There's the IT view here. You have new technologies in place from the cloud. You have software as a service technologies in place. You have infrastructure as a service in place. You have platform as a service in place. You put all that up, but still have your on-prem applications and PeopleSoft, Oracles, SAP, whatever you use here, databases which are existing since many years, and you added more unstructured data on it, also Hadoop technologies and so on and so forth. You put that all in place. Does it decrease the complexity? No, it increases the complexity. Now the business comes from top down to the IT and expects more, faster, with more efficiency, and again, reduction of costs. Can you click next one, please? So what is it all about? The complexity and the diversity really impedes the agility and the business value, what the business really expects out of it. Next one, please. So what we are doing is connect both areas, the business and the IT, with the One Automation platform. We did some weeks ago with Task a webinar about continuous deployment on DevOps.com and talked about release automation. Today we are talking about service orchestration, which is another part and product on top of our platform, One Automation platform. And we have also workload automation in place. So all the three products helps to connect the business with the IT, the business and applications with IT, the infrastructure of the applications, and also the business processes. And this is exactly what we are doing. Automation enables all of that initiatives on the IT and also on the business side. Next one. And it's the last one from my side. I just want to tell you some information around this, not a full one, as you had anyway get the video out of it. We have a singular focus on automation. We're doing automation. We're not doing any monitoring, just a classical monitoring. We're not doing any ITSM, any change management, CMDBs or something. We just do automation. We integrate all of that. But we are just doing automation for the business and the IT. So we have 27 years experience on that. We trust about 2,600 huge companies in place on the market with 650 plus employees, 24/7 global support, several regional centers, but also technology centers worldwide. So we're covering all of that worldwide in any region. 3 products in place: workload automation, release automation. Release automation is all about deploying applications with the right configuration, right dependency, right database, and right version of the application you want to deploy, and also do rollbacks. Service orchestration, we will listen today on Nordea, what it did here. And as you see here, for the category leader, we are mentioned by several analysts from being a leader in that space. With that, I want to hand over to Jesper. Jesper, welcome to the webinar.
Thank you. And hello, everybody. This presentation is about our cloud automation orchestration service project called CHAOS. But just to give you an idea of what Nordea is for a kind of bank, I have put down some figures here. Nordea is the largest financial institute in Northern Europe. We have close to 30,000 full-time employees. We have 8 different home markets, primarily in the Nordic area and in the Baltic area, but also in Russia. Nordea is identified as one of the 29 most important banks in the world, and by the FSB. And it is if Nordea fails, it will affect the global economy. We have just about 11 million active customers, and 500,000 of them are corporate customers. We have 800 branches in the Nordic and Baltic areas, but we have also branches in close to every European country and of course in the US. A little bit history about the service orchestration in Nordea is that in 2013 it was decided to insource all our IT services from IBM. They were outsourced just about 12 years before into a joint venture company called Nordic Processors, where IBM owned 51% of that company. We found that we had to insource just about 8,000 Windows and Linux servers, and we also found out that none of the procedures for this provisioning and software distribution were automated. The normal delivery time for a Windows or Linux server was somewhere between 3 weeks and 3 months. Other IT services that we had to insource was the user administration, creation of VDIs for developers, especially in India. And also here we found that there were no automated procedures for this. The delivery time, for instance, for access to a server was more than 2 weeks. And as you can see in this picture, if you order a Windows server, it could take up to 3 months. When you got the server, you then had to order access to the server, and after that you could ask for software to be installed. So it was a very long process. So we had to do something about this before we could insource the servers from IBM. We identified more than 200 different services going from create a new user to server provisioning that were candidates for automation. And we set up the goal that we should go from weeks to minutes when it comes to server provisioning, and also for the help desk services. We also decided that it should be end-to-end processes instead of the customer having to order a server and then access to a server and then, for instance, a database on this server. It should be one process where the customer just had to order a database if that was the case. We also decided that the process, all of it should be ITIL-based, and it should be integrated into Remedy. A little bit more history about Nordea to understand the complexity of our IT environment. Nordea was created by merge of 3 different banks just 15 years ago. But if we go more than 30 years back in time, Nordea is created from more than 40 different financial institutes in the Nordic area. So, and when we look into our IT environments today, we can find that there are still something from all the 3 different banks that were merged into Nordea. For instance, creating a new user is done in different ways in the three areas, but also creating a new server is done differently. So that's a challenge we have to face when setting up this automated process, because then there will only be one way to do it. We looked into which tool we should use for our service orchestration, and we had have a lot of tools already who claim to be able to do this for us. For instance, VMware, the UCS Central, SCCM, Puppet, and Oracle, they also claim to be able to do this for us. But when we looked into the products, they were only able to automate inside their own silo. They could not go across, and we needed something to put the process together end to end. And because of that, we needed a service orchestration layer on top of all the silos. We have a long history of using Automic in the company, and of course of that we looked into Automic. Could it help us do the job? Automic has OS agents for all the OS platforms in our service catalog, and I can tell you we have quite a lot of them. Automic is also capable of handling web services, both the SOAP and the REST service. There is a nice integration to Remedy, and we are using Automic for our workload automation today, and in this setup we have more than 66,000 dependencies in our production environment. So Automic have proven that it is capable of running complex flows. We also have the necessary skills in-house, both on the development, operation, and admin side, and we also have good relations between Automic and Nordea. We have always, if we have huge problems, system standing still, for instance, we have always been able to rely on Automic to help us out on the problem. The next step was to set up how we would like to create this system, and we decided to create 4 different layers in the system: a presentation layer, ITSM layer. In this layer we have Remedy, and then we have the orchestration and execution layer where we have Automic, and the 4th layer is what we call the engineering domains. And the engineering domains are actually the silos you saw on before. So we defined, we had to define a service, and the service could, for instance, be create a new user or create a new server or something like that. A service could consist of a lot of small services called service components, and this could, for instance, be create a VM or provisioning an operating system to a VM, small pieces of codes that could be reused in different services. All services have a set of attributes, and the attributes are set up on the service component level. So you can, and those attributes can be set up as a attribute that comes from the predecessor in the flow, or it could be set up as a default value for a specific service, or it could be a calculated number or something like that. The orchestration is just how we set the service together from using the service components. The current status on our project is that we still have some issues to handle, but we are creating a lot of servers today, both Linux and Windows servers, and we also provide the Nordea with VDIs. We have not reached our goal with the end-to-end services yet, but when there is a request for a new server, for instance, it will be delivered within an hour, and it will be delivered with access. So it's a huge step forward. This is an example of how the setup is working, and if we take an example where a user requests a new SQL Server database, this request is put into Remedy as a work order, and Automic then comes by every minute and looks for new orders that are assigned to Chaos, takes the data from Remedy and puts them into the Chaos database, kicks off a flow inside Automic, and this flow actually starts with just having a start and an end. There's no jobs inside it or objects inside it from the beginning. Those objects are populated into the flow according to the information in the Chaos database. It could, for instance, be create a VM. It could be some SCCM stuff, put an operating system onto this machine. It could be some SQL Server stuff, create a database, and it could be some Active Directory stuff, give access to this server. And the last step would be to register this server in our asset database. When the flow kicks off, the first thing is that the Remedy work order will be updated so that the user can see that it is now in progress. And every time one of the service components are finished, then they will update their status into the Chaos database. If they end up with an error, the error will be sent to the Chaos database as well, but I'll come back to that. The last thing that happens is that the user get a notification that the service has been delivered, and the Remedy work order will be updated to finished. To make this possible, we created this IT self-service portal where all users can go in and order a server, for instance, if they are admitted to it. We also have an approval process on top of this, so if it is a request that requires an approval, you can approve inside this tool. And if there is an approval process on top, the approver will get a notification by mail when there's something to approve. This is our monitor. We do not want everyone to go into Automic to look for the status of a service. So we created this tool which contains the information about a specific request. And you can see in this request, for instance, we have some errors. And to be able to see what actually went wrong, you can click on this small Automic icon, and then the log file from Automic will appear on the screen, and it will be possible for the developer to see what he has to correct. We created this our service builder tool, where you can create a new service by putting service component just by drag and dropping them into the service component field. So you can create a new service on existing service component. You can set up dependencies between the different components. You can also define what kind of parameters the component should use. Is it a parameter that will come from the predecessor, or is it a default value, or should it get the value from the remedy work order? So what does Nordea get from all of this? We get a described and repeatable process, and that's really a huge step forward. As I told before, we have 3 different ways of creating a user today, so it is not that easy for an employee in Denmark to help a user in Sweden if there is a problem, because we are doing it in different ways. In the future, we will do it in the same way in all Nordea. We get a full audit trail on all deliveries, so we can measure when we can see when this request was kicked off, and we can see when it was delivered. We can actually use this to optimize our process if we have a component that do not work as well as we want it to. We can ask the engineering domain to look into it and make it work faster or fail less times and so on. The next thing is that our IT services will not be depending on key personnel as they are today. For instance, I could tell you a small story about if a Swedish employee asks for a new user, then they have to set up a Lotus Notes account for this user, and there's only one person who can do this. So if he's on vacation, then it's not possible to get a new user. We get less personnel doing manual routine. So we'll have more personnel developing the future Nordea instead. And the next one is also very important. Less lead time from idea to production for the business IT. As I told you earlier, it could take more than 3 months to get a server delivered. And if you have an idea on how to improve the business, it should be possible to get a server very fast, so you can test your idea. And if it is a good idea, you can go on with it, and it can be part of the business a lot faster than today. We also have an idea that we will get a better use of our hardware, because in a lot of areas in Nordea, they have servers just standing by if they need them today. If there is a problem on one of the business applications, they need those servers to do tests and try to reconstruct the error and so on. In the future, they will not need to have this kind of standby servers, because they can get a server within a very short time. There's a lot of more benefits from this, but those are, as I see it, some of the most important ones. During this process, we have had a lot of learnings. If we look at the way the project started, it was because we needed a lot of servers to be created in a very fast. It was not the idea to set up a self-service portal from day one, and so if it has been that, we would probably have asked for more top management attention and support, because this setting up this kind of automated system will create changes for a lot of employees. They will not do the same work tomorrow as they do today, and there is quite a lot of people that are not that keen on that. They like doing the same every day. So we have to look at automation as a journey because it requires a change of mindset for a lot of people, and it takes time. That's not something you can do just overnight. You also have to involve the employees that are doing the manual tasks today as much as possible, because in our case we have done it the way that we have asked the one who are doing, the employees who are doing the manual tasks, to create a script that does exactly the same as they are doing and deliver this script to us, so that we could just take the manual tasks and automate them as they were. Another very important thing is to have a service owner for all services. Someone you can ask if there is a problem when you are setting up this service. For instance, the 3 different ways of setting up a user. It is nice to have a service owner that have to take this decision instead of having 3 different employees discussing which way is the best to go forward with. And one more important thing about the service owner: the service orchestration team should not own any services at all. It should be the engineering domain that or the business IT that owns the services. That also goes for the components. They should be owned by the engineering domains and not by the service orchestration team. Because if they are owned by the engineering domain, they know when they make changes that will affect the service component. And as I told before, we started up creating Windows and Linux servers. If I had to start this all over today, I would probably have decided to start with small services that later on could be combined into more complex services. For instance, create access to a Windows server. That could be the beginning, instead of having a create Windows server where this component is just a small piece of the process. Another thing that you should consider put into the process from day one is the capability of having both manual and automated tasks in your service. By doing this, you can put all your service into your IT service management tool and set up automated tasks and manual tasks, and then you can start by just automating a small piece of it, and then later on automate some of the manual tasks. So this was actually all I had to say. So I'll give the word back to Ralph. Are you there, Ralph?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you. Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you for the great presentation. Was a great overview of what you're doing with the Chaos project on service orchestration. Additional infos you will find here on the atomic.com site. You can download the datasheet and also request a demo on service orchestration. Can you click next slide before we start in the Q&A? Next slide, Jesper. The presentation, please.
I don't know what went wrong. Something went wrong here. Just a minute.
Just click.
This one.
Perfect. Next click, please. Okay, thank you. So it's all about, before we start a Q&A, some upcoming events and webinars. We talked about the One Automation platform and the products on top of it, like Atomic Service Orchestration, Atomic Release Automation, and also Atomic Workload Automation. The next twos are based on workload automation. 17th of March, automating your critical business processes. It shows the business automation perspective from a business side. How do you fulfill the KPIs with Adidas Group? 25th of March with Infineon, which is a chip manufacturer, talking about agile SAP development. And we have another one planned on DevOps.com, which is upcoming in the 14th of April, about continuous and agile Sealable deployment. Upcoming soon. You will get soon an email about it, and check it out at atomic.com. My contact information is Ralf Paschen, Director of Solutions Marketing. As you see here, LinkedIn and Twitter. Just reach out to me if you have any questions, or feel free to connect.
Okay. Ralf, thank you so much. And Jesper, I love the way you ended that by saying, well, that's all I've prepared. That was a fantastic presentation from a very, very large, complex financial institution, and some unbelievable insight behind the scenes into how you're using Automic and other tools, as well as some of your own development, to really to keep the wheels on there and keep this thing moving forward at a great pace. So I thought that was a fantastic presentation. Thank you. Ralf, we have a few questions from the audience, and first one I get is, I think it's really a Jesper question, which is, can you share with us the main reasons behind your decision to insource back part of your IT?
I think that this is for you, Jesper. I can't answer that.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, where should I start? There's a lot of reasons for insourcing the IT, and one of them you saw, if we IBM was not that fast on delivering as we would like them to be. That's one of the reasons. We actually had part of the IT organization was not outsourced during that period. We had our own small data center for the capital markets area, and this small IT organization were actually able to deliver server much faster and much cheaper than IBM was, and that of course got someone to ask the question, why do we not get the same opportunity? Why do we have to pay this overprice for a server when capital markets do not have to pay that much? I think one of the reasons why it went that way was that when we outsourced to IBM, it was just a few years, I guess 2 years after the merge. And as I see it, we were not prepared to outsource our IT environment, and at that time we were not in control of all our processes, and because of that we were not able to ask IBM for the correct SLAs and so on. And that was the reason why, one of the reasons why we had to insource again. So to be honest, I think we will start outsourcing again in a couple of years, maybe in about 2 years. But this you should not tell anybody.
Just when we are
it's just on the web, Jesper. No worries about that.
Yeah,
it's going to be recorded.
In control of. When we are in control of all our processes, I guess it will be the time for looking into outsourcing again. But it will be in a complete different way than it was in 12 years ago.
Got it. You just expect calls from the IBM sales team shortly. But if I may just add to your answer, I've been in the IT business for 25 plus years now, and to me the whole outsourcing, insourcing debate it's sort of a pendulum that swings back and forth. 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago I started seeing many large enterprises outsourcing to the HPs, EDSs, IBMs of the world. And I think we've seen the pendulum swing back now at a lot of organizations to insourcing. And I think part of the thing that's driving that trend is cloud, DevOps, automation, SaaS-based services. Rather than having to outsource your entire IT stack, the ability to use software as a service for pieces, as you've done here, it's almost modular the way you're using Automic and some of the other solutions. It makes it easier for an organization to do. But the pendulum will swing back, I'm sure, and the fact of the matter is the economics of insourcing versus outsourcing, they really haven't changed over 20 years. I mean, outsourcing is not necessarily cheaper. It does require maybe less, putting dollars in different buckets. But that being said, that's my 2 cents on it. We have another question here from the audience I'd like to get onto, and that is, I hear a lot about Docker and Spoon virtual containers. How do you guys see these technologies helping improve and change? And I just lost my questions. I apologize, something happened there. But helping, I guess it was changing the way we do things. And Jesper, I'll ask you the question, and then Ralph, I'd be interested in your thoughts on that as well.
Yes, I'm not sure that I'm capable of answering that question just now, because actually I do not know that much about those technologies. But if it is something about being agile and setting up services in new ways and deploying software to servers, then we are actually also setting up our own way of doing that, and we are also using Automic there to do this. Do you have anything to add to this, Ralph?
Absolutely. Yes, as I'm looking at the solution writing already on new technologies, new solutions on the market, Docker is a big player on the market. It's new. It's completely can change the way we are building applications, or in this case, deploy applications. Could be a killer for virtual machines, to be clear with that. But where it is, where does it stand actually, it's just on the developer side. It's not in the enterprise today, but it has to be there. Because these technologies, in my mind, it's just my mind, and Automic also takes care of it. The Docker is a new technology which comes up. It will also add more, to focus more on applications. And the underlying infrastructure is not the #1 case anymore. You just